If you've ever taken any sort of psychology class, you may recognize the man in this photo. If you do not, allow me to introduce you to Stanley Milgram. In the 1960s, he conducted a series of controversial experiments in which he tested the obedience of test subjects in the presence of an authoritative figure. In these experiments, the test subjects were ordered to administer shocks to the learner, the person on the other side of the wall as shown in this picture, and continue to administer shocks despite them displaying signs of discomfort. Their obedience was put to the test as they continued to show clear discomfort, but the experimenter kept urging them to continue. This chart shows the outcome of the experiment, resulting in over 80% of participants continuing with intense shocks after being continued to be urged, despite going against their own morals. Good morning, my name is Elegance Carter, and my research question is, to what extent does a higher level of authority's command affect someone's obedience despite being considered unjust? My response to this question is people are more likely to obey orders that possibly go against their own morals if it is from someone in a higher power. The definition of obedience is described as compliance with an order, law, or request, or submission to another person's authority. Many people follow through with orders because they believe they can blame negative outcomes on the person handing them out. In the Milgram experiment, many participants gave up responsibility because if anything bad happened to the learner, they stated that it was at the fault of the person giving them commands and not their own. Results of numerous experiments have shown that when asked someone's reasoning for committing to unethical actions, there is a high chance they will say it is justified due to the fact that it was not their idea alone. Placing the blame on someone else also takes away their guilt, encouraging them to continue going further. People are also more likely to comply to commands they may believe are wrong because they think obeying is the easiest thing to do if they are less knowledgeable about a situation. When faced with a difficult decision, many people are more likely to feel uncomfortable and simply choose to follow the person in charge in order to ease their mind. In some cases, participants may also glorify the experimenter. In the Hoffling Hospital experiment, a researcher called nurses at a psychiatric hospital and asked them to find a drug in the medicine cabinet. The environment of the experiment is shown here, and when nurses were able to locate the drug, it clearly stated that the maximum dosage was supposed to be 10 milligrams. The doctor, however, told them to administer 20. Although the drug was not real and was created for the purpose of the experiment, the nurses would be breaking 3 hospital rules by taking orders over a phone, administering a higher than the dosage level, and giving medication that was not in their files. Of the 22 nurses that were tested in this experiment, 21 of them obeyed orders from the doctor before being stopped. This shows how people can be unwilling to even question authority despite good reason to. Fear plays a large role into this concept as well. Rebelling could lead to becoming ostracized from a group, which many people do not want. The threat of punishment heavily influences whether or not someone is willing to stand up against something they deem immoral. In Moral Courage and Disobedience in the Military, it states people in the military have a legal obligation to obey lawful orders. Military order and discipline, as well as mission accomplishment, are built on obedience to orders. Failure to do so, it is punishable against the Uniform Code of Military Justice in Articles 90, 91, and 92. Because of this, even if an order can be debated as unethical, they are still at risk for punishment, and many would rather not take that chance at all. My conclusion is, judging on many experiments and studies, people are more likely to obey orders that can be considered unlawful or even immoral if someone with a higher level of authority is commanding them. This is typically because they can place their trust or blame on them and do not want to face outlash for disobeying. This can be limited, however, as chances of obeying can often differ based on how people are raised or how confident in themselves they feel. This is never exciting.
All right, I'll I've got 2 questions for you. First up, what information did you need before you began your research, and then how did that shape your research as you moved along?
I needed to know like different experiments that could possibly be conducted and whether or not they could be considered credible at all before I began to continue with my research.
All right, and what questions kind of popped up as you were working your way through?
My questions were more so on the limitations of these types of experiments, as there's a lot of different factors that can kind of affect this sort of topic. So I continue to ask these and kind of look more into them as I wrote my paper.